Hello and welcome to Podsongs, where I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for new songs. Today, I'm speaking with an astrologer, a metaphysician, the author of 12 books, including Karmic Astrology and Earth, Astrology's Missing Planet. I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to Chrissie Blaze. I've heard you so many times on the Aetherius podcast and my email, but this is the first time we've actually got to speak. So
yes, how nice. How's Italy doing? My favorite.
Very
country.
Good. Everyone's, it seems.
I know. Well, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I struck lucky. Yeah.
Did you ever live in another country as well?
Amsterdam. Yeah, I lived in the Netherlands for a long time, and I was traveling for quite a few years.
Oh, yeah. Because you have a slight overlay on your British accent, I think. Different accents.
I haven't noticed anything in yours, because how long have you been in America now?
94 I came. Almost 20 years, yeah.
Gosh, well, there's not a trace with you, so you've done much better than me.
Yeah, well, I think if you go when you're older, you're likely to keep your accent, but if you go when you're young, it changes. I don't know. That's my theory anyway.
Maybe it's because I've lived in foreign countries where they don't speak English as the first language, so I'm used to speaking every word very clearly so that they can understand me.
Probably, yeah. And also, I've been around a lot of English people in the society in America. I was in Los Angeles, and it's a lot of English people.
Right, and when an English person speaks to an American, automatically you're much clearer than they can already understand you. So yeah,
that's probably it. But anyway, well, you're very talented. I have to say, very talented musician, and fantastic music that you write yourself, right?
Yes, yeah.
Wow, you do the whole thing. Fantastic.
Well, I have some musicians to help me join the dots. So I do a sketch and then they fill in, they make it much, much more beautiful than I would be able to do on my own.
So do you have downloads available, don't you? I know I used to like CDs, I still do, but nobody does those anymore, right?
No, it's on my website. You can download the songs, yeah.
But I mean, do you make money from that, or is it something you just...
Well, money as in an occasional cup of coffee, yes. But
gosh, yeah, you do it for the love then.
Yeah, I think to earn basic minimum wage, you need 6 million streams per month on Spotify.
I know. It's kind of like writing books,
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I guess, it's I do it even if nobody paid me anything. So
yeah, I know how it goes. It's a heart thing. Well, that's good.
It is, yeah.
So tell me when we're starting, or have we already started?
I think we've gone far enough that we can say we're officially started. So,
okay. I'm not quite sure what we were just going to chat. Are we?
With you, there's so much we could talk about. As I say, I've listened to you many times on Aetherius Radio, the podcast, and you've just opened my mind like a tin opener. It's incredible how the things you've covered there with Richard, who I've already spoken to on this podcast. So between the two, now I'm getting to speak to you. It's like I'm covered both bases now. So
great. So you were always searching for truth. Is that how you found the Aetherius Society, or?
Personally, yeah. Definitely I was a searcher. I got a song about it.
Yeah.
So I was always searching I was into Buddhism for quite a long time. And, when I look back, they don't really give you the answers. When you have the Aetherius Society, it's just in black and white. Everything is stark and so clearly explained, to the point that, if you leave things vague, then people can it's more acceptable to people. But when you say this is the truth, it's quite stark, isn't it? And it takes... I think of the Aetherius Society as an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, or that's very, very difficult to get to. And you can only, because of the mountains, you have to have the perfect approach to land on the airstrip. You have to have the perfect approach pattern to accept it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's to me
it's hard to find and difficult to land when you get there.
Yeah, it's hard to find, but I think if you're genuinely searching, like this is such an important thing for you, that I definitely believe that you will be led to truth. And then it seems to go in different levels, doesn't it? I mean, first of all, I got into theosophy and Rosicrucianism and Buddhism later, like you, Zen Buddhism more. And it's like a path. And if you keep going and you keep searching for more truth, I think more is revealed, isn't it?
But isn't that a law? Isn't that that when you're ready that you have to, on some level, that we obviously being not, I myself not being psychic, I don't know, but isn't there a law that when the student is ready, you have to be introduced?
Absolutely. But it's interesting, what does it mean by being ready? Of course, I think, it is difficult to find. But on the other hand, I think if you have a kind of a simple approach and you are prepared to open your mind to possibilities, and then use your logic and your discrimination or discernment. People don't like the word discrimination now, but it discernment. Yeah. Because I feel on this path, a lot of people seem to feel that the logic and the discernment and all these faculties of our mind, which are so precious really, are unimportant, and all it's important is like psychic abilities and intuition and so forth. But it's not true. We have to use everything to find truth. Because if you look at the world now, you see so many people believe they have truth with a small t, and they're going in the wrong direction, it seems.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's just so, that discernment, that when I heard the truths, I was introduced to them in such a gradual way. I came through Nehemiah Davis, I just found him on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just, I was looking about Kundalini, and he was lecturing about Kundalini, and he was going through the Serpent Power, the Bible of Kundalini, which is just an incredibly complex text. And he kind of, he does it in a very scientific way, a very basic way. He kind of translates the Sanskrit and, makes jokes about how long we would be struggling to read that if he didn't explain it so clearly. So he kind of introduces that, and then you go through that, and then so you accept him as the teacher, and then he kind of drops in these little truths about his experience he's had, and your jaw drops. And then he does another lecture about another, you look at his other videos and all about all these things, and it's just so, that was, to me, was just a mind warp, about all these, and you accept them because of the way he tells them in such a and he introduced me to Aetherius Society into it, and I think him as an American, this big like quarterback guy in America, introducing me to this Yorkshireman who is if I'd just come at a different approach pattern, I wouldn't think I would have accepted it. It would just been too crazy for me. But because I was introduced it from afar in a very slow way, that I had this perfect approach, I could glide in and land, and I've been here ever since. So,
well, that's very interesting. Yeah, we all have. I think it's always interesting to know people's personal journey towards truth, don't you?
But this is supposed to be an interview with you, so let's go from there. Let's say how you became
Yeah, well, I was fortunate in a way, because at a young age, I really didn't like life, I have to say. And I remember I asked my mother when I was young, what's life all about? My mother was a wonderful person, kind, like every mother, right? Absolutely fantastic. But she didn't know anything about anything. She'd gone through World War II with my dad, and through the bombing and the Blitz, and she had a really tough time. She just wanted her kids to have a nice, normal life, So she told me, well, you grow up and you get married and you get a mortgage and blah, blah, blah. And I just burst into tears. I said, I don't want that. I don't want that. I didn't know what I did want. But then I also had a great aunt who was an early member of the Aetherius Society. And she was also a theosophist and a Rosicrucian. And her daughter, my aunt, was also those things. And then my cousin, her daughter, became a member of the Aetherius Society. So I gravitated towards them a lot and spent a lot of time talking to them. And I was only, 14 or something. And then I got into then other things. I became a mystic Christian, and I was still toying with many different things, as one does, I think, in the search for truth, and all the other things I mentioned. And then when I was 14 also, my aunt showed me my first astrology chart. And that was a weird experience because I kind of understood it. All the symbols, they meant something to me. And obviously, I'd been perhaps into astrology in a past life. Mind you, it has been a lifetime of learning since then. But so I got into astrology and metaphysics at a young age, and then I got into other things too. And then finally I came back. Oh, I remember also, this is weird, my grandmother lived in North London, and the journey back to where we lived in South London took me down the Fulham Road where the Aetherius Society headquarters is. And I was probably only, 11 at the time. But they must have put up this flying saucer in the window, which was illuminated flying saucer around that time, because I remember when I first saw it, I woke up from my sleep in the car and I saw it, and it's like, wow, I've got to find out about this. And then every time we went to see my grandmother, I would always look out for this flying saucer. And then finally, I got serious about the Aetherius Society when I was about 21, and then sort of became a close worker, helped out there, and then joined the staff when I was, 23 or something like that, 24, a long time ago. And so it was like a number of different things like everybody else. It was just, that's what I wanted. I wanted to find the truth. And what I didn't know at the time is I wanted to find a master, because I didn't really know a lot about masters. But when I met Dr. King, when I first heard about him and met him, that is what I wanted.
So how was that first meeting then?
Well, I had heard about him a lot. In fact, the name came up a lot with my family, my aunt and my great aunt and so. So the name was like in my head. And then he was there at the top of the stairs. I don't know if you've been to Aetherius House in London.
Yeah.
There's stairs leading up right to where they have the offices, and where he used to live at the top of those stairs. And he was standing outside the office in the first row of stairs, and I was downstairs. I think I was on the staff at the time, but he hadn't come to London yet. So I walked up the stairs. I saw him. I walked up the stairs. It was like, I was quite shy at the time, but I remember I somehow felt emboldened. I stuck up my hand and said, "Hello, Dr. King. This is Chrissie Blaze." Oh, no, Chrissie Shafe I was at the time, sorry. And I remember he's like repeated my name. He said hello. He was very polite and repeated my name. And that was it. The kind of, I was just bowled over by him right from the beginning.
I bet.
He nearly knocked me back down the stairs. It was just like I'd never met anyone like that in my life. And I'd met some really interesting people, as one does, right, Jack, on one's journey.
Sure,
the truth. You meet some very interesting people with a lot of interesting experiences and quite, enlightened in different ways and aware. But he was something completely different. And actually, when I first did some work for him, he called me up to his office for the first time, which was at the top of the stairs. And I was into psychic things when I was young too. And I used to try different exercises to develop my psychic abilities. And I thought I was pretty good at being able to meet someone and get a quick psychic assessment of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You sort of get a feeling of what they're about. And I think a lot of people do that. It's a natural thing that we
without
do,
knowing it.
Without knowing it. But I used to do it consciously. And I remember I went up to his office and I just did that, right? And it's like he knew exactly what I was doing. He shut me down. It was like a teaching. He shut me down and he smiled. And I knew that he knew what I was doing. And I was like, well, I'm not going to understand this amazing master, at this point in my evolution, that's for sure.
What was it like working with someone who's psychic like that? Do you have any examples or other anecdotes?
It's I'm not terribly good at remembering a lot of stories, but I used to mainly do writing articles for him and typing. I did a lot of typing, like he would do dictation and type. We got into a nice flow. He was all about the work, I have to say. He wasn't about the psychic. I mean, he was. That's a whole nother part of his life,
Sure.
But on an everyday level, he had to get a lot of work done. As you know, he had to build the Aetherius Society. And so I didn't really experience a lot of that in everyday life. But there were amazing things about him. And one was that he was fantastically hands-on, with everything. He was fantastically hands-on. He didn't delegate. He was like, for example, if I was writing an article that he wanted for his newsletter or something like that, he wouldn't just say, go off and write it. He would spend a lot of time going through the grammar and editing it and so on and so forth. And he was like that with everything. Everything he did had to be perfection. And he spent a lot of time with the members of the Aetherius Society, writing to them, caring about them, a tremendous amount of time on all this. And you wonder how he had time to do the really important things that he was doing. But somehow he did. I mean, so I'd say my experience mainly was this sort of everyday work that we were involved in. And there were many things I could say about him. And but my experience was that he really instilled in us the importance of service and the importance of perfection in action, which was a hard one for me because I'm not, generally like that.
Who is, yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose some people are more naturally like that. And the fact that he had this posted on the wall that even a saint cannot reclaim a wasted minute. And so he wanted to make us very conscious of the fact that, we're born into this life and we have a certain amount of time, and that we should try and do everything we can of a positive nature to help others, to help the world, and to advance ourselves in that time. And so he was very conscious of that and tried to instill that in us. And another thing he instilled in us that I recall is that he wanted us to be very positive. And he used to say that play up and play the game. And this reminds me of astrology in a way, because once you learn about astrology, you see that you can actually not be subject to the astrological patterns that are taking place, but actually start to use them and start to use certain aspects of your own nature. And he wanted us not to be, say we were coming in feeling depressed, he wanted us not to be depressed, but to take control of our lives and play the game of life and be positive and be joyful and this kind of thing. So that was an interesting experience.
And didn't your parents once come to visit and he spent like the whole day with them just chatting?
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. The master was very interested in people, and he was very, he loved people actually. And he was always interested to hear about and learn about other people who were good at things. He appreciated people being talented and good at things. And he was an action man too. And my dad was an action man. And he, after the war, 13 years in the Royal Navy, he went into the police, and he became a detective, homicide detective, and also a marksman, which was quite unusual in England, actually, because they don't have many marksmen. And he was a marksman right up until the day he retired, which was unheard of because you had to get 100% every time, and he did. So I used to tell the master stories about my dad, and he was always very interested and always wanted to know more. And also because they went through World War II, my parents and he did, I think one day he just wanted to meet them. He'd heard a lot about them. And he spent a whole day, and they talked about the war. And he, of course, was in the fire service during the Blitz, which was unbelievably dangerous times. And they just chatted. And afterwards, he actually changed my parents' lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they had retired, they were older, and he didn't try and get them to change, but it was just, they were so impressed with him. And another thing he did, by the way, is to tell them what I was involved with. And afterwards he said to me, in a nice way, but he said, you should have told them that, because, I just went off and did my thing, and my parents were incredibly tolerant and broad-minded, and they just let me do my thing. But I hadn't really told them about the Aetherius Society. And so he ended up telling them about that. And then afterwards, they started to change their lives, and they got involved in service in the community and all this kind of thing. It was his influence. And later on, they joined the Mystical Order of St. Peter and so on and so forth. So he really changed their life.
Gosh, I mean, well, I'm so fascinated to hear about this, obviously, because I'm in the Aetherius Society, but maybe some of the listeners, I hope you're being patient with us, because this is such to work with a master like this, you don't really appreciate it until, obviously you moved to America to work with him. And so maybe you could just, to the uninitiated, give a little bit, because I've seen the chronology of the things you worked on, and it was just such a dynamic time. You were every week there was a new operation or a new thousands of things to do. It was just such a dynamic time, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It really was, because he was laying the foundations for this coming age, this age that we're in, the Aquarian age. He was helping to lay foundations, this age of science and spirituality. And
so what kind of things did he do that you were involved in that to the uninitiated?
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into the missions. I'm not sure. I don't want to kind of lose people, but he started Operation Prayer Power, and I was very much involved in that in the beginning. I was there when the Saturn mission started, and in England at the time, and things like that. But
so maybe you need a bit more time to explain all of that.
Yeah, I know. I think
than the time we have today.
Yes, exactly. But one thing I think people might be able to relate to is the healing. That was something he started at the time in England, and maybe other parts of the world as well. It was 1975. You would go along to, say, a spiritualist church, and someone would give you healing. And I had the experience myself, or at a festival, which is a good thing, people are giving healing, but they would be maybe smoking a cigarette, because everybody smoked at that time at the same time, and talking to someone else. There was no very little. I didn't come across any kind of certain technique. People would just go in, put their hands on you wherever, and you don't know how effective it was.
Some people had the magic and other people didn't.
Yeah, you just don't. Yeah, exactly. It was a gift reserved for the few. And then Dr. King came along in 1975, and he'd written a book, You Too Can Heal, and he did these lectures throughout the country, and that was the message: you too can heal, and making people realize that everybody has the ability to heal. And this was just one small thing that he did, but it really did make an impact. And looking back, you'll see that now, of course, everybody says that. But I believe that he was one person who really put this out into the mind belt of the world. He did it so strongly. All these lectures and all these, we had like dozens of healers up there giving people healing and talking about it. And it was just an enormous amount of energy he put into that.
Gosh. Okay, well, maybe that's as far as we should go with the Aetherius Society, because I've got Alison coming on in a few weeks, and we're really going to hit it hard. She's going to blow the doors off, so maybe we'll leave that for her.
Yeah. Well,
and please go ahead.
No, I mean, maybe we could talk a little about the Earth and astrology.
Yeah, let's go into that. So let's go into what you're doing now. You've written this book, The Earth as the Missing Planet in Astrology. which is I think is an incredible achievement. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, do you know the Alice Bailey books, Jack?
I have. They're available on mysticknowledge.org, Nehemiah Davis's website. And Alice Bailey was one of the leaders of the Theosophical Society. But those books they're too much for me to get into. They're really heavy going. So
actually,
I know they exist, but
I know they
I haven't touched them.
You should try her autobiography, because that's fascinating.
Okay,
that's a great place to start, actually. But anyway, one book that I have obviously is Esoteric Astrology, and like you, I find it very, very hard to understand. But there was one sentence in it that really stuck in my mind when I first read it years and years ago, and that was, and I'm paraphrasing here, there'll come a time when all astrologers will have to take into account, I remember it was the influence of the earth in astrology. And that stuck with me. You know how something sticks in your mind and you and it doesn't go away. So I suppose
gauntlet.
I'm sorry?
As a gauntlet, as a challenge.
Yeah, and I suppose over the years I was waiting for astrologers to come up with it, to come up with a book about it. And they never did. And then I got the strong impression about 3 years ago that perhaps I should just give it a try. After all, I had a lot of experience with astrology. I trained at the Faculty of Astrological Studies in London in the 80s. I'd been a consulting astrologer to clients all over the world. I taught astrology. And I thought, well, perhaps if I have a go and write this book, then other astrologers might come along and come up with their ideas about this as well. That was my aim. I didn't want to be the be-all and end-all of this, because it's a huge topic, obviously, the influence of the earth in astrology. But strangely enough, I'm sure you and listeners, and I know in classes I've taken over the years, students always say that. Why don't we take into account the earth? It's obvious, right?
Right.
It seems obvious. Well, so I had a go. But I think, strangely enough, I had a few psychic experiences along the way in writing the book. After I'd finished the book, it was the middle of the night. It was about 3 a.m. I was woken up and I got a little poem came to me. And I used to write poetry, but this was quite short. And it was from a guide. And I believe it was a Native American guide that I have and I was aware of at the time, and actually met him when I was in Lake Powell. And he gave me this little poem about the earth. And because of the impact of this poem, it's just a few lines, I realized, and I had a kind of realization, how one does if you have an inspiration it's like you realize something, that I'd written the book in the wrong way. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
He could have told you earlier, no?
Yeah, I had to do a complete rewrite because the book is, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I said he could have told you a little earlier.
Yeah, but I got all the astrology down, and I got the sort of scientific evidence of the fact that the earth is a living intelligence and all this kind of thing. But what I hadn't got was the importance of our relationship. And that's why the subtitle is Earth, Astrologer's Missing Planet, Reconnecting with Her Sacred Power. And I'd really kind of missed out on that. So I had to, I realized that was really the important part of the book.
Can you say that one more time, just so I really understand it? What was missing?
The missing was the connection to the earth that I believe since maybe the Industrial Revolution and even beyond, we have lost that connection that people used to have, didn't they? If you think about, people used to build things in the past that were in significant places, like churches on ley lines, and all this thing, and Stonehenge, and they always took into account not just the earth but the heavens above and all this, and we've lost that. We've become very materialistic,
and also asking for permission before doing things in a ritualistic way. Absolutely,
it's so important. And because we've disassociated ourselves from the earth so much that now I read in Scientific America that some young people are saying that they're afraid to go out into nature, and because the parents may impress upon them that they could be bitten by mosquitoes or whatever, and there's concerns. But and one boy said that he didn't want to go into nature because there's no plugs, electrical sockets for his computer or whatever.
Yeah.
So this disassociation has become very, very strong. And so I felt that part of, probably the most important part of the book, was to realize the true nature of the earth, her devic kingdom, the nature spirits of the earth, and how we can cooperate with them, and in doing so, start to bring harmony to this planet through not just the weather patterns, but just harmony, because the divas, the nature spirits, want to work with us, And it's said that in the days of Atlantis, we used to work openly with these nature spirits called the devic kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I still haven't got my head around the fact of the devic kingdom. I mean, probably more people these days can believe in UFOs than they believe in God. But if you ask people about divas, then I think you're going to get blank looks all around the room, no?
Yeah, the master was great because he gave us ways to prove to ourselves that they exist.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and there's one very, very simple one we can all do. And we probably do anyway, but consciously do. Go out into nature on your own or with someone who's very into what you're about to do. Go into nature, find a quiet spot and a peaceful spot. Mm-hmm. And then, look around at the trees and the flowers and sort of open yourself up, be receptive and open your heart and just offer a little prayer of gratitude. Or a little thank, doesn't even have to be a prayer. Just express to the divas the gratitude for the beauty of nature, the flowers, the trees, and those who create this, who make this possible, the divas, the nature spirits. And at this point, you may not even believe in them, but just offer your gratitude, offer your thanks for all this beauty, and then just wait and be receptive. And you'll find, if you're a fairly sensitive person, that you will get a response from that. I mean, I've had it so many times. And also my husband, Gary, has taken a picture of a diva and things like that.
Okay.
So this is a wonderful little practice. And after a while, you become more sensitive. Unfortunately, I have seen them twice in my life, but I don't see them like the theosophist Jeffrey Hodgson. He's written wonderful books about the divas.
Oh, I was just trying to think of who is that author, and I've read those books, and I mean the way he describes them is just absolutely fantastic. And he has pictures in there, and that just makes you want to be psychic. So you can just experience that, see these entities.
Yeah, but even if you can't see them, you may not be clairvoyant. You probably can start to feel them if you practice this little exercise. Just offer gratitude and so on, and then just wait and feel them. And sometimes we don't take notice of our feelings, but we should, because this is an aspect of our psychic nature too. And also, I've had beautiful smells too, like roses or lavender that seem to come from nowhere. That's another sort of psychic ability, another indication that the divas are aware of us and want to work with us. And they can only work with the energy we give them, right?
Right.
So when we give them our gratitude and our love, then they can use that energy to create harmony in nature. And so if we get a critical mass of people in the world doing this, then we can change conditions on this planet.
It's Jeffrey Hodgson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think he's available. He's published by the Philosophical Society. I think you get him on Amazon.
Yeah,
and those books.
You probably can't get that book you're talking about, the one with the color plates, a fantastic book. I think that's out of Kingdom of the Gods.
Was it Kingdom of Fairies is another one?
Yeah, Fairies at Work and Play. That's really nice. Where he used to see them doing rituals and all this kind of thing together. And
they're free on the mysticknowledge.org website. That's like there's so many theosophical books on there that people can download for free, and that's been an amazing resource. So.
In our house, we have a little diva house, Because
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah.
Every home has divas in it, and they use the energy of our home. So if we got it on Amazon, I think. It was a little wooden diva house and put it in a corner of our room. And we talked to the divas, give them symbolic food and water, well, actual water, and little nuts and raisins or whatever, and talk to them. Sounds crazy, right? But you start to feel them. And my husband is quite psychic, more than I am. And sometimes if you can ignore them for a bit, and then if you start to talk to them, they get really excited, and you can feel their excitement. And then sometimes he gets so excited that they'll follow you into another room. And my husband's seen them. And then when we go away, they don't like that when you go away, but we talk to them, and my husband tells them we're going away for how long, and asks them to look after the house and all this. It sounds slightly crazy, but after a while that you know they're there. And
well, they do this in other countries, in like Thailand and India. They have these little shrines in the house.
Oh, so right, yes, yeah, they do.
It's just our highly advanced Western culture, which is moved away. I heard Nehemiah Davis say that when he was a child, he was he went up to the bathroom one night or something, and then he saw on the kitchen shelf they had a pile of shopping brought in for food that they hadn't put away yet, and there were divas flying in and out of it.
Oh, really? He saw that?
Scared, and he ran back to bed. But that's just what they do. There was food for the family. They were happy and they were excited, and
they get very excited. Yeah, very excited. It's lovely, actually, because it's another thing that people can try. You don't have to believe me or believe anyone, but you can try it for yourself and see what you feel, and you may see them. And this is exciting because it makes a huge difference to one's life to think of this kingdom, just like the human kingdom, running alongside it, the Devic kingdom, just as important as the human kingdom, in some ways more so, who want to work with us, who want to work with our energy.
So why can't we see them, though? Is it we've limited ourselves?
Well, some people can. Yeah, I think because, we haven't yet fully opened our psychic abilities. So some people see them, some people feel them. I do feel them. Some people, they have these smells, which are always beautiful smells that come, divas are around. So I think it's just practice, just taking that leap of faith, I think, isn't it? Just don't shut yourself down. It's like UFOs. People think, oh, that's crazy or whatever, although more people believe in them now. And so you won't be open to them. It's the same thing. Just take that leap of faith, because life is much more exciting when you realize that there's so much more than just this material life. Thank goodness.
Well, we're deaf and dumb, aren't we? I mean, most of us are just blind to everything. So
yeah.
But let's go back to the Earth, your Earth book. I think we've got off track here, and it's such a big subject that we could keep talking for hours down any alleyway. So so you got the book back on track. You changed the direction of the book. You included this new angle. So what is the main takeaway for? Perhaps there's an astrologer listening to this. How can they use astrology in the Earth in astrology?
Well, first of all, you can very easily work out your Earth sign, because it's 180 degrees from your sun sign, so it's completely opposite. So I can just run through, if you don't know the sign that would be opposite their sign, which probably most people don't, I can run through what your Earth sign would be if you know your sun sign.
Okay.
Right? Do you think that's useful?
I see it in the book here on the Earth in Aries, Sun in Libra, Earth.
Yeah.
Earth in Taurus, Sun in Scorpio. So I'm Cancer, so Earth in Cancer, Sun in Capricorn.
And your Earth sign, it's like any of the planets in astrology. Once you sort of can use them as tools, then you can realize more of your potential. And let me explain what I mean by that. So I know a lot of people in the past in different classes have said, well, you say I've got the sun in, what's your sun sign?
My sun sign.
I should know.
You did my chart. So.
Yeah, I know. I should know. Is it Sagittarius? No.
Hang on, it's on. I've got it open.
What's your birthday?
23rd of June. 1977.
Okay, so you're Cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have the sun in Cancer, people read about it, and they've often in classes said, well, I'm nothing like my sun sign. And my answer to them is, well, you should be, because this is where your source of creativity, your power, your strength, your vitality is. And you see, then you can start to use it, inhabit it. Sometimes you have to make a decision in life and you don't know which way to go. Think about your sun sign and sort of center yourself in your sun sign. I like to think of it as the director of your play, if you like, of your life. That's the director. That's the main one. Just like the sun is in the solar system. So get yourself centered in your sun sign and make your decision from that place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you read your Cancer chart, you say it's not like you, but it's basically what you were born in this time to. You deliberately chose your time of rebirth to get to these qualities.
Yeah. So like you're sun in Cancer, so you're obviously a very intelligent, articulate person. But when you're making a decision, you have to listen to your feelings with the Cancer, to your, it's very much a sort of a psychic feeling nature is very strong in you. So your mind might be saying to do this, but you listen to those feelings. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is one planet. So then you have Mars and Venus and Mercury and stuff. So Mercury is the way you think. So you got to listen to that when you're, talking or articulating and so on. But Venus is your social planet. So if you're going into a party, your Venus in wherever it is active, and you can tell how, what you need to learn from that, how your Venus is. Perhaps you might have a difficult Venus at birth, would mean you find it difficult in social situations. So once you understand that, you can start to overcome that, right? And draw on that power. And it's the same with Mars, is your assertion principle. And so you can start to use that in situations where you need that. But the Earth is also very, very important. And it's the opposite to the sun. And I like to think of it, and this is where I'd like other astrologers to come in and offer their opinions too. But it's how you manifest your vision, your dreams in the material world, if you like. Okay. So it's how you best work out your karma. I suppose you could call it your dharma. So you're a Cancer, and your Earth sign is Capricorn. So with you, you're a person who needs to ground your feelings in a very kind of almost sensible way. You can really use the power of ambition of Capricorn to get your feelings and your music, your whatever it is, your dreams grounded by taking one step at a time. Capricorns, they go towards their goals one step at a time, and they can really be extremely. They can achieve whatever they want because they keep their focus in front of them. So instead of being perhaps a little bit scattered, because with the sun in Cancer, if you're going a lot by your feelings, it will lead you one way and another. Grounding yourself with that Capricorn Earth, you can really achieve whatever you want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, like a roadmap of how to behave when you're in each of these situations, different situations.
Yeah, that's a simpler way of saying it. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, Leo, for example, they love to have praise and appreciation. But the opposite sign is Aquarius. So they're balancing the need for praise and attention with the desire to give praise and attention to others. Aquarius are very, into brotherhood and so forth. So, all of them have an opposite, which is very different, but is very grounding, which makes sense, really, because the Earth is grounding for us. But it's to consciously use that energy.
Okay, so how can people use this do you have to go to your astrology every day, or is it just more of the way you should like listen to your personality and how you should act? in it?
No, I mean, I certainly don't look every day. I kind of roughly know at the moment Mars is retrograde until November, like mid-November, which is since Mars is your assertion principle and it's retrograde, and it's retrograde in Aries, Mars in Aries, because Aries is like a power sign, and Mars is also the power planet. That's a very powerful combination, right? So when it's retrograde, which means it appears to be going backwards in the heavens, it isn't really, but it appears to be. It's like putting the brakes on. So it can be very frustrating time. And it's several weeks. It started in September. It's going on to about mid-November. I think it's the 13th. So what do we do with this? Well, the best thing to do with it, with any of the retrogrades actually, is to use time working on yourself, going within and working on yourself. So there's always, it's good to be conscious of the big things that are happening. And I have a newsletter if people are interested in signing up for it. I think they can do it through, because I'm never quite sure, but I do get emails that come through astrologycity.com. And I send out newsletters about the major sort of astrological things that are going on.
Okay. So yeah, it's not sort of something you should be like, because when people think of astrology, they think it's in the newspaper, the daily thing, and it's always about your love life, or it's very vague, But the way you one of the books about karmic astrology. So
yeah, that's an ebook actually. But I have a section on karmic astrology, and my favorite astrology book is Superstar Signs. You are too young to remember. There was a book called Sun Signs, which was a real popular book in the late 70s, I think. Linda Goodman wrote it. Still around. It's a great book. But mine is also a great book. And mine is, I got 60 people, some of my favorite people, and talked about, like John Lennon, for example, is a Libra. And I put him in the section of Libra. And actually Richard Lawrence is in my book too, under Cancer. And of course, Dr. George King under Aquarius. And so I talk about the sun, your sun sign, from quite a deep place, going into it in great detail. And then I give examples from different people in history and modern times as well. So also in that book, I do go into karmic astrology a bit. But if you just want the karmic astrology, there is an ebook for that.
Okay, because it's more like the way you do it. It's more of like it's an overriding thing. So you're born at this specific time in this life to learn these. Because we're in a series of endless reincarnations, and this time around, you are here to do this. Here's your plan.
Yeah, exactly. I do what's called evolutionary astrology. People always want to know about relationships and jobs and all. That's important to all of us. But I'm more interested in finding out what helps the person to grow. And it's kind of a deeper look at a person's chart than just the relationship, the career, etc. And so, yeah, in fact, when you come into this life, you have a guidebook given to you, which is your birth chart. And it really is a wonderful guidebook if we learn how to look at it. Astrology is very complex, as you probably know. It's extremely complex. I've studied it quite a few decades, and I still only feel I know a little bit of it. But I also believe that you can take a little bit of astrology and it can be very helpful, like a tool for you, just your sun signs. And that's why I've written the books I have, because I try to make them very, very practical. Having my Mercury in Taurus has to be practical and simple for people to understand. And then we can, even just knowing your sun sign, it gives you a certain guide through life, the approach you take. If you're an Aries like me, you know that you kind of always need to be on the edge of things, on the cutting edge. You don't need to be following. You need to be out there on the edge. Otherwise, you never feel really you're doing what you should be doing. You know what I'm saying?
So you perhaps think that other astrologists are more kind of pandering to people's base needs. They're worried about what's happening next year and avoiding any pain. trying to get the...
I think we all have those. We all want to know what's going to happen to us from a personal perspective and health and so on. I think sometimes the daily horoscopes can be quite accurate depending on the astrologer. I mean, there was this astrologer in England he died. Patrick, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He was very, very good. And you can give a general overview per sign, which would be quite general, but it can be very helpful as well. For example, like right now, as I said, Mars is in Aries retrograde. So that would be really affecting Aries a lot. And it will be affecting the other more active signs of the zodiac, which are the cardinal signs. And people will feel it.
But you think there's much more to astrology than, there's really this karmic aspect, this bigger thing than just, trying to... Because also you say that there's a very important interpretation. You need a psychic element, you see, because there's these huge powers at play, and it can act on a virus, it can act on an economy, it can act on a business. But there's no way you'd have to be a supercomputer to predict in advance what's going to happen, unless you have this psychic element. It's much easier to look back and say, well, of course that happened then because there were these huge factors at play, and obviously that made it. But predicting in the future is much more difficult.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Jack. You can certainly analyze and work out trends for the year ahead. And I did it. It's in my blog on Astrology City, and many other astrologers did it too. And as far as the trends, I think I did pretty well. And I did say that the world as we know it would sort of come to its knees. But what I didn't know, and what I haven't seen any other astrologer that knew also, was that it would be because of this virus. So you're absolutely right. Had you been really, really psychic, maybe you could have seen that. One could have seen that.
Yeah, or an intuition or something like that. But there's so many variables at play here that...
In fact, I couldn't see how it would happen. That was the strange thing. I could see that it was going to happen, that the world would almost never be the same again, because we're coming to the end of this long era, and actually a new era starting December the 21st this year, which is a sort of an overlay of the Aquarian. Well, we've already started the Aquarian age, I believe, early 60s. But this is the real beginning, another real beginning of the Aquarian age.
Oh, really?
A beginning that will be more manifest on the material plane, I think, put it that way.
In what way? So what would we see next year? I mean, obviously you can't be specifics, but what are the trends? Well,
we're seeing it now, actually, because leading up to this big change in December the 21st, there are other things going on astrologically, which indicates you're getting a taste for it. Well, we're getting the taste for it. Whenever you start a new era, the beginning is always difficult, right? Whether it's a 2,000-year era or a smaller 200-year era, and this one is a 200-year era approximately.
Starting on the 21st of December?
Yeah, it's very important.
Okay, 2020.
So leading up to it, you start to feel it, you get glimpses of it, and we're seeing it. The Aquarian is this Black Lives Matter. That's one manifestation. Now, of course, like any new beginning, it's, there's a lot of chaos and so on and so forth, but there is this burgeoning kind of interest in the lives of other people, which is very Aquarian, and not just in materialism totally, as it has been quite a materialistic era with a lot of planets in Capricorn. And so there will be more of this, people being prepared to speak up for what they believe in, and I think this will include more interest in subjects like this, like UFOs, like all these types of things that have been dampened down in this materialistic era. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but eventually it's going to lead to, I think, more of what is going to lead to a better world, because people are not going to be prepared to put up with certain things any longer. And we've seen this already.
Because Dr. King was the master for the Aquarian age.
I believe so, yeah, absolutely.
He manifested all these qualities.
And I think people, through all this chaos that's happening in the world now, they're wanting more. They're beginning to wake up. They're realizing that there is more to life than just this material world. And so I think there will be an awakening. Definitely there'll be an awakening. Dr. King said that, or through his transmissions, that the world, in some ways, it would get worse. People would have to come off the fence, right? And you'll have to either go towards the spiritual, wanting to be connected and help others and so forth, or becoming more and more selfish. And this division will take place. And that, of course, leads to other deeper topics. But
sure.
We're seeing that now, aren't we?
One of the first guests I had on the first guest I had on the show, he talked about, like, if you walked into a maternity ward as someone was giving birth, and if you were a young baby, a young child, and you saw that, you'd think it was the most horrific thing and you'd ever imagine, and you'd be traumatized for life. But actually, that's the most beautiful for that mother. Then the baby's the most beautiful moment in their life. It's the birth of a new thing, and these things are always bloody and messy.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, that is true, isn't it? That's that's very, very good. I like that. Yeah. That's the way mankind is too. And one, does it have to be that way? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying?
But is this, I studied Ayurveda, and I got, I studied to be a practitioner, and I put a lot of, but when it came to actually helping people and trying to be a practitioner, I just couldn't really get into it, helping. I didn't have that one-on-one caring, you see my chart, so it's not meant to be. But it's kind of that it should be like taught in primary schools, and the Ayurveda is so practical. And I think the same, that you must have the same feeling with astrology, that gives you such a perspective on everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a useful tool. I'm not like one of those people that has to know every day what my chart is saying. Because it's a tool, but it's not. It shouldn't be an obsession,
Yeah.
Because
more of a life goal thing.
Yeah. But if we're coming up to a very difficult time in our life, I call these sort of karmic watershed moments where everything seems to go wrong. You lose your job, and of course you lose your job, and it's a knock-on effect, and then you don't have the money, and then it affects your health and so on. Then astrology can help you find your way through these things. Well, it can help you to understand what's going on, and actually realizing. And I went through a very difficult time myself, but realizing that this is actually helping you to grow is a very good way to approach it,
right.
Which I tried to do. And I found, because I did have that approach, because I could see the astrology of it and the karma of it and everything, I think I feel that I came out of it much stronger than when I went in. It was like a 5-year trial, if you like.
Okay. We won't go into that.
Yeah, no. It's a health thing. But I would never regret it, because, getting stronger is what it's all about on this planet. That's why I love Swami Vivekananda. Do you like him?
Oh, yes, yeah.
He's all about the strength, right? Life is a gymnasium, right, and we're here to make ourselves strong, right?
Yeah, and also what I've learned from the Aetherius Society, and the teachings, and how when you evolve much more, you understand this. But the karmic effect, and our karmic bank account of us as individuals and as a group consciousness, as a planet, and as this is a huge thing. And you have to cash in the chips. You get into debt, and they come to fruition. So this karmic factor is hugely important to a level we can't understand.
Absolutely. And that's why where Dr. King was so brilliant. His understanding of karma, I think, has changed the whole, again, it's in the mind belt, it's changed the consciousness of mankind, I think. The fact that karma, we always thought of karma as being exact. Well, it is exact. As you sow, so shall you reap. It's on all the teachings. But he came along and said, in his book this little book on karma and reincarnation, you've read that, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely an amazing little book, isn't it?
It is.
And in it, he says, in the law of karma is a vein of compassion which allows it to be manipulated, right?
Yeah.
And that really struck me, a vein of compassion in the law of karma. Because in some countries, their understanding of karma is that, well, that's your karma, and that's it.
Yeah,
There's nothing we can do about it. So
chew on that.
Yeah. But of course, he introduced this tremendous compassionate approach to karma, and that it can be manipulated for the benefit. Manipulated has a kind of negative connotation to the word, doesn't it, Jack? Unfortunately. But, I know you're a wordsmith. But
here's something I wanted. Here's something I wanted to ask someone in your position, which I haven't got the chance to ask yet, because it wasn't explained in Dr. King's teaching, as far as I know. But so I think everyone can understand how we accumulate karma, that we do bad things or good things, and maybe it gets stored in our aura or as sankharas or in the somehow. But then, it's 20 lives later when that perfect moment arrives. How is karma manifested? Who does the maths? How does that work out?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Who does the maths? Well, I think it's our higher self, isn't it? Because when we pass on, we apparently go to the planet Saturn, and we actually look at ourselves, and we work out what we need for our next life. So I imagine it's our higher selves in conjunction with probably higher intelligences too. I don't know.
As if there's like a multi-lane car pileup,
Yeah.
There's all these lives influenced, and people suffering, and people's children, their relatives, all their lives are disturbed. I mean, that's an incredible, formula to work out, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, those sort of global disasters and tragedies. Absolutely. Yeah, I suppose also we have not only personal karma, but we have, family karma, but also, country karma and stuff like that. So there's all that involved as well. It's very, very complicated, isn't it? It's simple, but it's very complex, isn't it?
I guess I meditated on it, and I kind of that there is a misunderstanding about God now, that we think that people have these very misconstrued ideas about God, but God is now the manifested as the kind of the law of karma, isn't it? One aspect. Yeah.
The law is God. The law of karma is God, if you like. Yeah.
So maybe that's what takes care of it, and it's just easy maths for an overlord like that. Yeah,
it's so far above our understanding. It's hard to, explain it really, but or express it. But I suppose we all have within us this divine spark of God. So perhaps, when we pass on and we work out our next lives, we choose our parents, right? So if we choose our parents, we choose where we're going to live and so forth before we're born. So I suppose that spark of God, being a divine part of us, must have that kind of knowledge, but perhaps in conjunction with higher intelligence. I don't know. But it's a very interesting thought. I know.
It is. And also you find that some people, they say they don't believe in God, and that there's nothing, because it's not fair, because you see this guy who's doing terrible things and he's never punished. And then you see this baby born with cancer or a terrible disease. So where's the justice there? But actually those two things, they're arguing the point. They're arguing the karma there, but they just don't realize it.
I know. It's hard to think. I don't like to say about a baby, that's their karma. I really don't like to think that, because I think each new life, we have a certain amount of karma, but we also have a new beginning, if you like. And it's not a happy thought to think that. But, there is truth in it. Absolutely. Yeah.
It wouldn't happen unless.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But certainly when I do charts for babies, I do charts for babies. It's not something I dwell on, really. I don't think it's a good idea to, but just to try and deal with what is now, rather than saying, well, that's their karma.
Gosh, well, we covered a lot here, and I have to condense this down into a song. I always mention this kind of the end as I come back and remember it myself. So, yeah. What book are you working on next? What is your next project?
Well, I don't really have one. I don't know if you're like this with your songs, but I'm sort of open, and then I get impressions to do something.
Definitely.
You get, that's the sort of creative spirit, I suppose. And right now I'm a bit of a blank slate. I suppose the one book I'd love to write, but I probably won't get the chance to write it because the biography of our master has been written. So it's not that, but more of a personal approach to our master as a book I'd love to write. And I'm sure many
that's something I'd love to read. Yeah. I mean, when you look back at all the, the Bible, it's all secondhand, and all the other great books, it's always the people who are around them, their experiences. So, their witnesses of the miracles. So I think, it would be a major resource for the future generations to have because you worked with him for so many years. It would be incredible to read your insights.
Yeah, not just mine. I mean, he had, 30, 40 people who did work with him. So, yeah, that's one thing. And there are also other books that need to be written, I think, but I don't know if I'm the person to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I think
just sort of the miracle, I mean, I've heard some people tell stories, and one of them was that they were sailing out onto a lake to do an operation, and I think it was Brian Kniep said this, and then they were in a boat behind his boat, and he went out into the storm, and then he was riding into this terrible storm, and then within seconds, the whole the storm, the black sky for miles, just evaporated.
That's with Dr. King out on a boat.
Yeah,
these kind of things happen. The weather often changed when we were on Holdstone Down, the holy mountain in Devon in England. So often the weather would change like amazingly. I mean, the weather does change in England, as you know, but it was just like night and day, all these sorts of things.
Those kind of anecdotal stories just bring it to life for me, because the Dr. King autobiography was fantastic as well. But
absolutely.
Yeah. But those kind of first-hand stories they're just so interesting.
Yeah, actually, Gary,
loaves and fishes,
Gary, my husband, has many too, because he was in Los Angeles at the headquarters, and he was at the table for, I think, 10 years, I think, the dinner table and the lunch table, a few other people. So he has many stories too. Maybe we should do a joint book at some point.
That would be great. I'll have to get him on the show as well.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That would be fascinating.
Yeah, he's really, and he knows a lot about magic and all these kind of things. That's really his interest in yoga.
Okay.
A lot about yoga, different yogas and yoga masters, and yeah, he's very interesting in that respect.
Okay, sold.
Well, one last thing about the Earth. I talked about the master Dwal Kul, who said this in Alice Bailey book about how there'll come a time when astrologers will have to take this into account. But I suppose I want to say the biggest influence of me writing this book about the Earth and our connection to the Earth was, of course, my master, Dr. George King, because his understanding of the Earth is beyond any I've ever seen anywhere. And the fact that he had that visit to the Logos of Earth, and there's a book about that, and that he really had such a deep appreciation and a deep love for the Earth as a living, highly advanced intelligence. And in all his writings, you'll see this influence of the Earth. And he said that every spiritual organization should take the Earth into account, actually.
Because the Earth is Gaia. It's a living being. It's a living entity, breathing. Yeah,
and there's lots of scientific evidence about that too, and I put that in the book. It's not just mystics saying it as they have, and indigenous cultures saying it as they have, but it's also now science saying it too. They're catching up.
Yeah, you say, as above, as below, and it's like, I saw a cartoon, about these fleas on a dog, and we don't believe in dog.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, when you think about the Earth gives us everything we need, the vegetables, the herbs, the flowers, everything we need, and yet we somehow don't think that she's alive.
Yeah, and that the insects live in trees, and bacteria live in us.
Yeah.
It's just logical to, if we can get out of our tiny mindset.
Yeah, all the planets are alive. In fact, I think that's the raison d'etre for astrology, really. I mean, I do. I think this is why astrology works. There's many different theories and some really interesting theories, but I think it's just that they're living, highly evolved living intelligences. And just like we radiate energy, right? Each one of us radiates energy and have a different, through our auras, through our psychic centers, we radiate energy. So do the planets, but in a much more powerful way. And so they create all this energy radiation of the planets, create a kind of cosmic symphony, if you like, that then affects all life on the planets.
Maybe more important than that is to think of it not as radiating, because that goes in all directions throughout the. Maybe they're just like projecting it in a ray to each of their brothers and sisters. Yeah,
maybe.
Because in a concentrated band that just. Don't we have these bands around the Earth, the ionosphere?
Yes, absolutely. That was put up because of man, because the cosmic rays used to bombard the planet, which was very beneficial to the planet herself, to have this interaction of the different planets. Her brothers and sisters, as you say, was very beneficial to her. And then because the ionosphere had to be put up to protect mankind, because we're not ready for this wonderful bombardment of cosmic rays yet.
So that's the ring pass knot that Madame Blavatsky.
Yeah.
So is that being removed gradually?
Gradually, yeah, it's being removed gradually, so that we will get a fuller bombardment of cosmic rays, and then will help us to evolve and advance and become more psychic and more spiritual, and so on.
And is the Earth gradually moving on its axis as well?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but I believe so. Yeah.
So is it global warming, or is it just the natural? This is the Earth going into the new age. I
think a lot of it is due to us, actually. I mean, I think it will happen. A change is happening anyway, but it doesn't let us off the hook. It doesn't let us off the hook at all, because we are responsible for the energy we put out, and the energy we put out affects us, but it affects mankind. It affects the divas, and they use that energy. So we can bring far more harmony to this planet, including, I believe, to the climate, if we were to realize that and work consciously with the divas. But on the other hand, as you say, it's part of a natural evolution of the Earth as well. I think it's both.
I remember Dr. King's mission. He said, if he could decide his mission, it would be to go around the world, chat to all the divas, then give them the energy they need to bring the Earth into balance. But unfortunately, had a lot more important tasks to do.
Yeah, if I could choose, that's a wonderful lecture, really, really inspiring. Yeah, he did say, I read recently that if you knew how to work with the divas, you could be in an orange grove in California, for example, and if you worked consciously with the divas, they would receive exactly the amount of water they needed when growing, and exactly the amount of sunshine, and so if you extrapolate that to the world as a whole, you can see that this harmony, this balance, can be achieved by us working with the divas, but it would obviously take a critical mass of people to do that.
Yes, and all this, I mean, that's on everyone's mind, so yeah.
Simple things we can do to help to change the world.
And it's all in the mind belt now, so if people can contact it if they go within, and Okay, well, I think the song has to be about the Earth, and
yes,
and so I'll delve deeply into your book. I haven't read it yet, but this has inspired me because I haven't had time. But I'm definitely going to read it now. I see it's on Amazon here, and I'm going to get it.
Oh, great! Thank you.
And there's many other books from you here. So,
if you write a song about the Earth, I can put it on my Astrology City website.
Okay. Wow. Gosh. I'll be honored.
Well, of course, I'd be honored if you write a song about the Earth. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I could do. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you've done so many interesting books, but I think, the Earth, we owe her so much. No, without a doubt.
We all do, and we're all in it together. I mean, maybe you want to close this interview, but something that sprung to my mind was that, unbelievably, before the astronauts first went to the moon, we didn't have any pictures of the Earth from space, and that was in the 60s, before you were born. But I remember it well, actually, and later met an astronaut who was one of the first to go to the moon, and he said, we thought we were going to the moon, and I'm paraphrasing, but in fact, we were going to see the Earth for the first time.
Oh, really?
And so I think that's very interesting timing, because I believe that was the time when the Aquarian Age started. It was the time of the initiation of Earth, 1964. And it was around about that time, too, when we first had these pictures of the Earth from space. And I think this is like a tremendous consciously expanding time, for us, for mankind.
Mm. Well, so they called it Spaceship Earth, didn't they? Or like,
yeah.
I mean, people say they want to go and colonize Mars because, this planet's we've almost consumed all the resources here. And, I mean, what do you think about that when you hear that?
Oh, I think it's disgusting, actually. I think it's so typical of humankind that we just have to take everything we can. And then we've had all that, and we go into another one without any thought of gratitude or, it's just unbelievable, really. I don't think it's quite going to happen that way. But the interesting thing is, when the astronauts went, if you ever get a chance to read some of the things they said when they first went to the moon, they were so inspired when they saw the Earth. They realized then, they had this tremendous realization of oneness. And this is such an important thing too, that he looked at the Earth and there were no barriers of countries, or anything like that, of religion or division. We were all in it together on this frail, fragile little planet, and we are. And I think we just have to really realize that.
Gosh, did they land on the moon? Because there was a lot of conspiracy theories that they didn't.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. They did land on the moon. Yeah, they did.
Okay. Because also the master Aetherius said they wouldn't be given permission unless they
were able to land on the moon. Yeah,
they were able. Okay.
That changed, actually.
Okay.
And they did land on the moon. I spoke to one of the astronauts who's now passed on, who had a sort of a change of consciousness. I'm trying to think of his name. After he went there and formed an organization, a kind of a spiritual organization after that, because he had that realization of oneness, a very, very deep and real realization of oneness. I'm trying to think of his name, but anyway, a few of them did. I mean, it changed them. Plus, they had UFO sightings, of course.
Did they?
They all believed in UFOs. Yes, they couldn't really say too much until, because they had to sign all these confidentiality agreements and so forth. But
what did they see? Do you know any?
Well, I think most of them, if you look at it, most of them had experiences of being followed by UFOs and seeing UFOs, and absolutely, certainly, I'm trying to think of the name of the person I met. They did, yes, they certainly did.
There was one last year, or this year, there was one British astronomer who came out and said that, it's obvious there's UFOs. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that was yes, the lady astronomer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of her name too, but yes, she did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're not doing so well with the names today, but it's all in the mind belt. It's all just meditate. You'll contact it.
Yeah, that was a big thing when she did that. And there was a lot of media about it as well. I think virtually everybody believes in UFOs now, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the U.S. Navy has come out and there's all these videos. It was even on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, the Pentagon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think now a lot of people also believe that not only is there intelligent life in this solar system, but I read a survey recently where a lot of people also believe that they're here among us.
Right.
So, things are changing.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to chat to Alison about it, because she's an encyclopedia now about all these things. And
oh yeah, she's especially knows a lot about the planet Mars. So ask her that question about Mars.
Okay, well, there's a fantastic podcast that you interviewed her on Aetherius Radio, and that was a wonderful episode about all the trees on Mars and all the,
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's only on this level of vibration. Now, I mean, if you go to other of the electromagnetic spectrum, if you go to other parts, then there's a completely different habitation on each planet.
Yeah, they don't necessarily live on the physical plane. Just like when we die, we don't exist on the physical plane, but we're still physical, but we're on a different vibratory rate, if you like. So they don't have to live on the physical plane of Earth, of their planets. They're much more advanced than we are.
Right.
But they can
that was one of the
manifest physically, obviously.
Well, that's one of the things that when I joined the Aetherius Society and all, I learned about the yogi teachings, of this. It's just funny. It's just funny in our understanding not to connect these two things, that life after death and UFOs are connected by this levels of manifestation. It's the same thing, really.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. And, still some people think you die and that's it. I mean, some of my family members do. To me, that's such a strange thought,
Yeah.
Especially
I've interviewed
karma.
I've interviewed, quite a few people on this podcast, and also, many professors and scientists, and they just think that consciousness comes from matter, not the other way around. But that's just once if you don't talk about the science, but you just think about that yourself as a conscious being, then you can't. It's hard to accept as the truth, man.
Yeah, and quantum physicists have changed that, really, haven't they? I mean,
I did interview a quantum physicist, and he had this idea about the many worlds theory, that there are many worlds. Every time they do a quantum experiment, they create another world. And I didn't get into the other realms of existence. It sounded a bit funny to me, but I'm not going to criticize other guests.
I don't know if they've gone into other realms, no, but
no.
I think they realize that there's no such thing as matter. I mean, I know Dr. King talked about how the spaces between, a table is not solid, because if you look at it, it has all the atoms and so on, and in between there's like masses of space. I think the quantum physicists have a similar theory to that.
Right, yeah, the universe of the atom, yeah.
Yeah, I don't...
The solar system of the atom, yeah.
Yeah, so
but Dr. King, he said this in the 1950s, so...
Oh, yeah, he was saying things. I mean, any of the listeners interested to finding more about Dr. George King, he has a wonderful website, drgeorgeking.org. Anyway, he's such a fascinating individual, such a fascinating master.
And you were lucky enough to work with him, so...
Yeah, and many others too. But yeah, I felt very fortunate, yeah. But, I did this podcast with Mark Bennett. I don't know if you heard that one. He's very good too.
Yeah. Recently.
And, the fact is that we all make mistakes, and he felt very, it was a shame that he didn't meet him and all this. He'd like to have met him. But, I pointed out that, you meet him, but then you think, I wish I'd done this, and I wish I'd done that, and I wish I'd done that better, and I wish I'd taken that opportunity. So we all have regrets.
Helped him that bit more, because like he never stopped. I mean, he would it was never, like you said so many times on the radio, it was never enough. He would never, I'm tired now, I'm going to take tomorrow. Someday we're going to the beach. It was all the time. You keep going. That incredible amount of work that you must have done with him. Yeah,
it was just incredible. Yeah, that he would come down the stairs in Aetherius house, with those stairs, we talked about that earlier, and every single day, and realizing later on that he was very stressed, his health wasn't good and so forth, and being young, and I kind of totally unaware of all of that. But he never missed a beat, honestly. It's day and night. I mean, never stopped, 24/7.
And so you're in Michigan now. You're running the Michigan branch of the Aetherius Society.
I'm sorry?
You're in Michigan now. You live there and you work there and you run the Aetherius branch there.
Well, I don't run it. No, we have a team.
Oh, sorry, a team.
But I'm one of the ones that do. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We moved there after Los Angeles, after the master passed away, because they were getting a spiritual energy radiator in Michigan and needed more people to help run it. I don't know if you've gone into spiritual energy radiators, but that's another thing.
Sure. Yeah.
For another time. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so you set up in Michigan with your husband Gary, and that's where if people want to listen, if anyone is in the Chicago, Michigan area, they can go along to the.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now we're sort of closed to just members because of the COVID, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly give us a call and email me if you like, and keep in touch. Yeah.
And are you teaching online astrology at the moment? Can people contact you for a reading or for teaching?
People are asking for readings because I did a big coast to coast radio show and got a lot of people wanting readings. I'd sort of stopped doing readings, rather like you and Ayurveda, I think.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time, and I rather try and reach more people, and that's why I wrote books. But I will do readings occasionally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the best thing is people study themselves. They learn it from your books on Amazon or your website, Chrissie Blaze.
And just know that I say to people, when you're going through a difficult time, and we all do, you're actually it's actually a good experience, a teaching experience. It doesn't feel like it at the time, certainly mine didn't. But if you have that approach, it really helps you to come out the other end stronger.
Okay. Well, Chrissie, I think I've had a wonderful chat with you, and I could keep going for another many more hours. But I think we've covered the basics there.
Well, thank you so much, Jack. You're fantastic. Thank you for all you do and your songs and your all the work you do and promoting these spiritual kind of topics. Thank you.
Well, that's praise indeed from someone like yourself who's done so much in your life.
No, it's never enough. I think,
Great chatting to you, Chrissie.
And you, Jack. Take care. So you've been working on a song?
I have, yes. I had this old song called Pale Blue Dot, and it was inspired by Carl Sagan. And so... right. Yeah, but since I got into the Aetherius Society, I found out that he was a denier of UFOs.
Yeah, he was, but I thought he had a change of heart later on, but I could be wrong there.
Did he?
I know he certainly was initially, yeah.
Maybe I misjudged him, but I had a song, Pale Blue Dot, and I've kind of updated that about the Mother Earth now. We're giving it a lot more respect and the credit she's due, rather than just an insignificant pale dot on the edge of the solar system, on the edge of the...
Yes, exactly. And in fact, I think the astronauts, when they first went to the moon, gave the Earth a lot of respect when they saw her for the first time, and many of them had changes of consciousness and realizations that we're all one family and about this fragile little planet. And they wrote most beautiful sort of tributes to the Earth, actually. So
really, yeah, they call it Space Station Earth, and they see no borders when they're flying by. You can't make out different countries and different races. So
I know, and we're so used to seeing that picture of the Earth from space, and being younger, you take it for granted. Well, I'm not saying you do, but younger people do. But in fact, I grew up and we've never seen a picture of the Earth from space ever. So this was the first time, and it was like a massive change in global consciousness, I think, at that time in the 1960s.
Really? That's an interesting perspective. No, I never thought of it like that. You kind of take things for granted, don't you? What you grew up with, you just think that everyone's always known. And
and I think that was such an important time in the history of, the present history of humanity, that we had this change, this realization of the beauty of the Earth and the fact that we're all on it together,
Yeah. And some people think you never landed on the moon or anything. So.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's lots of conspiracy theories about that, about everything actually. But that one is, I've actually spoke to an astronaut. I think I mentioned it in the interview that when I was speaking with Gary at a conference in London.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me all about it. So, I mean, when you speak to an astronaut who's been there, you can't really deny it, you know, and has photographs and changed his life, you know.
Wow. Okay, well, let's. Would you like to hear the song?
Oh, I'd love to hear your song. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Here we go.
Some thoughts depress you, like what you had and lost. Like we ever really possess anything, and even know who we are. Think of your ancestors, do you even know their names? They've been blown away and are floating with the stars. They are just specks of dust here upon the Mother Earth. We owe her all of our love. Blessed is the Mother Earth. Think of everyone through history, everyone who ever was, of the lives they lived and what they did, how little we know of. They lived there every moment in this tiny place, and in the universe they left no trace. We are just specks of dust here upon the Mother Earth. We owe her all of our love. Blessed is the Mother Earth. Rivers of blood spilt in triumph to claim one piece or own one corner. Endless cruelties visited out to move about. Imagine borders, how many have died fighting for the Mother Earth. Every creator, every destroyer of civilizations, every hero, every coward, every king, they owe all of their lives to the sacred Mother Earth. Every saint, every sinner, every son, every inventor, every explorer, everyone in the history of the species crawled around the Mother Earth. Yes, they lived out their lives here upon the Mother Earth.
Oh, Jack, that's absolutely fantastic. Really, it's beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
It's not only thank you for the tribute, not only the beautiful image, but I mean, the words and the way you sang it with such feeling. I actually got shivers throughout my body when I was listening to it. It was a tremendous feeling of inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think it's so important too, because people have realizations about the Earth from the perspective of science, but it's all about us. Can we survive on the Earth? But you have changed the emphasis to the one that the Earth is a really important one, and we're just specks of dust. And I think that's such an important realization, and such an important song, I think. So thank you for that, and congratulations. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
No, well, thank you for the inspiration.
That came, of course, from our spiritual teacher, Dr. George King, initially. But we're all trying in different ways. And I think it's great to get a perspective from you, an artist, a singer, songwriter, and as well as just the scientists and so forth. And I tried to do it from the perspective of astrology. And so I think the more people do it from different perspectives and sort of can reach different people to help raise that consciousness in that respect.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, we all, yeah. Hopefully, this raise of the cosmic consciousness. Hopefully, we all, as the consciousness raises, everyone starts to become more aware of this.
Yeah. So, how did you feel? Were you pleased with it when you wrote it? Or?
Oh yes, very. But I have to give credit to the musicians. I mean, I just write on the acoustic guitar and with feeling, but they transform it into this this orchestral composition, which. I'm not that skilled as they are, so I have to give credit to the musicians.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. They did a fantastic job, I have to say.
Yeah.
And the words so you must have been quite inspired when you wrote those words, I think.
Yes, definitely.
How did you sort of get in the mood to write them? Did it take you a long time, or?
No, you just do it intensively. They come out quite quickly. Once you get in the right mood, then you're channeling it. So yeah, usually
so how then? I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
So how can people get it? Listen to that.
They can download it on I sell it for $1 or €1 on my website, and it'll be on iTunes and Spotify, YouTube Music, everywhere, Deezer, all the other usual music channels.
Okay. Do you have it on Amazon as well?
Yes, it'll be on everything. Yeah.
Everything. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Yeah, it's a digital distributor, so it's very easy for me.
All right.
Yeah.
$1. Well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, you can. Well, you can listen. You can stream it for free on Spotify. But if you want to donate for the making of it, you can also. There's an album of songs every month, so I release 12 songs a month through the podcast, because we're doing 3 episodes a week. So this.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So yes. Is that? Would you say that was one of your favorites, or?
Definitely, yes. Yeah, they spend a lot of time on that one. I mean, there's a lot of layers, and it just all comes at the end, all this crescendo. So it's a very orchestral piece. Yeah, I'm really delighted with it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. You seem to touch what I feel about the earth, as something so beautiful and sacrificing herself, really, if you think about it, for humanity to just go about their lives. And without the earth, where would we be? Lost in space. You seem to capture that deep feeling, that sort of soulful feeling, in the way you sing it, as well as the words.
Well, thanks for chatting, Chrissie. It was great.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you again, Jack, for this absolutely magnificent song on the Mother Earth. It's really beautiful. And I'm certainly going to have it on my website and promote it whenever I can, because it's such an important message, and you did such a beautiful job. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I'm so glad you liked it.
Yes, have a great day.
All right. Take care, Chrissie.